All right, we have a group of 5th and 6th graders here, along with the intermediate homeroom teachers. And 5th and 6th graders, how many of you, this meeting was a total surprise for you? Mom or dad just said, hey, we got to get on the computer, and didn't tell a lot of details. All right. Well, we are recording because it is going to be a part of our honors iChat on Friday. And normally on honors iChat day, we secretly let your parents know ahead of time that you are going to receive an award. And so that's what we did. We let your parents know, hey, there's something really special that we want to recognize your kiddo for doing. And we would normally invite them to come to the house on the last day of school for chapel. But since we can't be there Friday, this is what we're doing instead. So this is like parents have just walked in and they're sitting in the back with us in chapel, and your teachers and I are all up front. We're ready to give out some special recognitions. And for this recognition, I will tell you guys that this is an award that we have never, ever given in intermediate school, okay? Never. This is the very first one. And we're actually kind of hoping that it will be the last one too, because this award we have named the Remote Instruction All-Stars. You guys are our Remote Instruction All-Stars. Now what that means is, as we started this little journey back almost 10 weeks ago, and you guys jumped into school on a computer and started doing everything on Google Classroom, and messaging and doing Edpuzzle and submitting videos and all that came with the craziness of doing school at home, online, without your teachers there, sort of with your books, jumping on sites, messaging, waiting for answers, and juggling that with moms and dads working, and even working at home or working outside of the home. You guys, out of all of our intermediate students, really impressed this group of teachers. We saw you interacting with your teachers, but also the way you interacted with other students, the way some of you answered questions for us when things were working and we sent you things and said, hey, can you try this out? It looks right from my side, but we can't figure out why it's not working for the 5th graders. Can you help me out? You guys really stepped up to the task. And so you guys are our Remote Instruction All-Stars for 2020. Like I said, never had to give it, never want to give this award again. You guys have really rocked this remote instruction thing by doing exactly what you're doing. You guys have just showed a lot of ownership in your work. Teachers sent something back and said, hey, I need you to do a little more on this. You jumped right on it, and you just showed a lot of resilience and a lot of independence. And we're just so, so proud of you. I'm going to let your teachers jump in here and just add a little bit to that to tell you why they chose you as one of the all-stars for this award.
All right, well, I'll start off with Dylan. Dylan was often one of my first people on and would check things for me, and he would send me messages if I forgot to make a correct answer on a Google form or something, and he'd be like, oh, you don't have an answer for this one. And that's so helpful, especially when I was getting started, because I really struggled at the beginning, but that was really helpful to me. I also, Bella was one of those early ones on that was very faithful, would always be checking things, and she did a great job with that. Annie, I got to talk with her mom on the phone, and she had such a system of organization on how they checked all their assignments every day and checked what came back. And so there were just so many of you that impressed me with that. But I don't want to talk about everyone because I got to like leave my team some compliments too.
I'll talk about Logan. Logan he just was right on top of all of his work. He was eager to get it done. He had great answers. He wrote in complete sentences with capital letters and punctuation. That was huge. And I really appreciate that. And then I'll talk about one who's not on here that didn't make it to our meeting, but Rowan. He really worked hard at the beginning through the remote instruction and just getting things done. And I so appreciate the help on those two.
I'll jump in on Hannah. Up until, well, even through this week, I think she's gotten, I'm pretty certain 100% or 99.99%, because she has just been so thorough. Hannah Kay, been so thorough on every answer. And even I appreciated her willingness to go to self-reflect on a lot of the Bible questions I was asking. It was self-reflection, and when you're willing to reflect like that, you're really able to grow in your walk with Christ. And I just really appreciated that about Hannah. And Kelsey, I appreciated about Kelsey early on. Mrs. Mack shared with us that they had difficulty connecting with they were just having internet issues, but you never would have known it. Her work was on time. She was asking good questions. She was doing it well. And she was an encouragement. Her and Bella both. I appreciated the encouragement that they were to their classmates. And Hannah Eimer, again, thoroughness. Just just the fact that we didn't have to answer 1,000 questions because you read instructions, you did what we asked, and you did it thoroughly. Appreciated that very much.
Mrs. Mack, we're still not hearing you.
Lip reading. 101.
Mrs. Mack, I'll talk for a minute. If you want to type a message in, maybe we can try to get your words there. I'll mention something too about Hannah Eimer. Several posts, Hannah, that I saw, just a lot of creativity from your missions, and just really appreciate you taking that extra time to do those things. And Abby, I've really loved seeing you interact with a lot of your classmates.
Yeah.
You have been such an encouragement to others, and just the way that you have interacted with them in posts and comments, that's been just an encouragement to all of us to see, that's something that is really being talked about in a lot of ways now, is to encourage people not to isolate themselves when they're at home and behind a computer screen. And you've really shown that you get that. You see how important connecting with your classmates and being an encouragement in that way. You've really shown that you understand how important that is, and a great way to do that. Oh, sorry, Mrs. Mack. All right, teachers, any other things to share before I let this group go?
Natasha's not here either, but again,
right.
with Natasha, it was thoroughness, and towards the end, then she also jumped in on encouraging classmates. I especially noticed that when I recorded the praise team Zoom, she was very encouraging to the praise team, and I appreciated that, and just her thoroughness. And Abby, I'm going to add on to what Mrs. Edwards' comments, and just say that slideshow you just turned in, had I done a full one for you guys to see a full sample, I couldn't have done a more perfect one. So I don't know if you saw my comment, but I asked if I could use that for future classes, because I intend to continue to use this. It was fantastic.
Well, I just wanted to close and just tell all of you students, thank you for the way that you really embraced this weird way of finishing up school. You've done such a great job. We're so proud of you, and I hope that you are ready to kick back and enjoy some breaks with some outdoor ed activities, and just really appreciate you guys and the great job that you've done. Parents, thank you for the way you have just help them be independent and help them along this journey to, you can point at either one, help them along this. Certainly not the way we planned to end the year, but parents and kiddos, thank you so much. You guys have really risen to the challenge, and we're so proud of you. Thanks so much for joining us, guys. You will receive a certificate for this award, and also have a recognition in a part of our iChap on Friday if you want to log in there and check that out. But your certificate will be ready for you on June 1st when you pick up your outdoor ed souvenir and clean out your lockers. All right, have a great week, guys. Thanks so much for a good year.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
All right, we're here again for another awards presentation as a part of our honors ICHAP. And parents and kiddos, thank you guys for making time in your day out of outdoor ed and all that you have been doing with work and catching up on school to be a part of this meeting and this presentation. You guys are all going to be receiving a certificate for your award next week when you come to school to pick up your things and clean out your lockers. But we wanted to have a specific time where we could talk to each of you and tell you a little bit about the award that you were chosen to receive. And Ms. Glovich is actually going to tell you a little bit about what this award is and why you were selected for it.
Okay. We kind of have named this award several things. We've worked on it for the past few years. It used to be called an Improvement Award, but we didn't like that name as much because it has to do with more than just like, it doesn't mean you were bad at something and you got better at it. It really has to do with growth. So this year we kind of called it the Improvement Growth Impression, people who made an impression on us, people who we've seen grow. We're fortunate to have students often for 2 years. And so we get to see that span of growth over 2 full school years, which is really a huge amount of time in the age of, 11 and 12-year-olds. So we get to see a lot of growth in that time. So that's the award. We don't want you to look at it as like, oh, I'm most improved, because that's not what it is. We see it as the growth that we've seen. And of course, everybody has had some growth, but certain people every year stand out to us on how much they've grown over the course of the school year, or in some cases, the course of 2 school years. So I'm going to start with the 5th graders, and I'm going to start with Alex. So Alex is here with us today down there, and we have seen Alex grow a ton since we got her at the beginning of 5th grade. Come out of her shell, see her personality. She was super quiet when we started the year. She was often, if she got frustrated or something was difficult, she just wanted to stop. And we have seen that change over the course of this year a lot, and we definitely want to recognize you for that, Alex. Your persistence, pushing through when something is a challenge, gaining independence, and figuring out how to work through just something that might be new to you or something that was a challenge. And so we definitely wanted to acknowledge that, because it has been a big change over this year, and we hope we get to see that continue as you move on to 6th grade and even beyond, because we know it will serve you well. The next one is Bennett. I have to kind of look around to find you on my screen. Bennett, you have made an impression through us, not only during the school year, but also through our remote instruction. So obviously, you guys, this has been a new thing for all of us, to be online. We've all been learning things, but the teachers especially saw some, just a big impression made with the way that you answered questions and the things, asked questions, and what came from your heart. And so that made a big impression on us. And so we're really proud of you on how you've pushed through in that. It hasn't been easy for any of us, but you've done a great job with that. And then Kylie. Kylie, you came to us new this year, and we have been you made an impression with your kindness, your helpfulness around the classroom. You're usually one of the first people to come up and say, what can I do? What needs to be done? How can I help out? And so those are all just big ways that you have made an impression on the teachers, and just that servant's heart that you have. I'm going to let the other teachers comment on 5th grade before we go on to 6th grade.
I'll pipe in. Can you hear me? Yay.
Mm-hmm.
On Bennett, I really appreciate the comments from Bible each week. If anybody posted a prayer request, you were very quick to say you were covering it in prayer, and that just really meant a lot to me. Alex and Kylie, both of you have the sweetest hearts. And I just look forward to having you and your smiles every day in class. I've missed our last few weeks of hugs and just you guys showing love to everyone.
Alex, I saw a big improvement in just the stick-to-itiveness on math. I know it's not your favorite subject at all, but you really worked hard and you kept trying, which is all I asked you to do. And that will help so much. That'll help you go so much further. Kylie, I love that you wanted to always clean my room. I might have to have you come over to my house, clean it before my daughter's graduation party. You know, we'll just have you come over, bring your mask. But I appreciate that helpfulness. Just had a great year getting to know you as a new student to our school. And Bennett, you're a boy after my own heart. They're laying on your stomach. I'm on my bed, laying on my bed because that's how I work best. But I just appreciate you. You were a quiet leader in my classroom, but you would be attentive and listen, and I just enjoyed seeing that.
Alex, I echo what the other teacher said, and I especially appreciate in the beginning, early on, if you would get frustrated, you would kind of get a little bit of a disrespectful tone, and not because you were upset with us, but just because you were upset with the circumstances. And I really saw that change towards you grew out of that, and you realized you learned how to handle when you were frustrated, not letting your frustration come out in the way you were reacting, in the way you were approaching us. And I appreciated that growth. And Kylie, just your perseverance. I know there were a lot of things you struggled with, but you grew. You didn't give up. You didn't say, well, I guess I just don't get it, and life goes on. You kept trying, and I appreciate that. And Bennett, just overall, I appreciate who you are. I appreciate your character, appreciate your friendship to the others. I appreciate your heart for Jesus, your heart for your friends, your heart for your teachers. And that has been a huge encouragement to me this year.
Are we good? Everybody got to say what they want to say? Good. Okay. All right, let's move on to the sixth graders. Okay, so for sixth grade, I'm going to start with Parker. And Parker, we have seen so much growth in you over the past 2 years. We have had you for 2 years. And what really stood out to us is how your responsibility for your own work has really grown. You've taken your schoolwork seriously and just really become more independent. And we've just seen a huge change in that from coming through 5th grade and then into 6th grade. Just being very responsible, working really hard, and just doing a great job of succeeding even more, everything you do. You put your mind to it and you'd get it done. And so we're really proud of you for that. Carson, we've got you on here too. I would just want to talk about you for a minute. Carson, we really looked at this we saw a huge academic improvement in you from coming through 5th grade and into 6th grade. And again, just a real desire from within to want to do well. Of course, I think you also did a good job of doing less talking with having Tyler in the same class as you. You said, we can do it, and you did, and that's great. You've done such a great job because we know you're buddies, and that's great. But you really have worked really hard and want to do well, and we see that coming through. I also want to mention a couple people that aren't here because all of our 6th graders didn't come, but Hannah Kay. Hannah Kay has really made an impression. She was a new student this year with us. And just from the start, she made an impression that she is who she is no matter what. She didn't come in and change. She came in strong. She's been herself all the way through. And despite what's going on around her, she's been such a hard worker and done a really good job both academically and coming into a new school in 6th grade, which is quite a challenge. And then the other one I want to mention is Natasha. Natasha is not here with us today either in this, but Natasha has grown so much over the past 2 years. We've seen her come out of her shell. Last year, she was very, very quiet. And sometimes hardly even spoke to us as teachers. And we've seen her come out of that shell so much, get to see her personality, she would really make the effort to greet us every day and talk to us about how our day is. And so just that growth has been amazing. So teachers, any sixth graders that you want to mention?
I've appreciated Faith, and just Faith has grown by leaps and bounds through the 2 years that we've seen her. I just have appreciated how she has just persevered through things that she struggles with, and I know she does, but she continues to struggle, but she's continuing to grow, and I appreciate that. I appreciate who she is. I appreciate her faith, and how she's continuing to grow in that faith, and the growth that we have seen in that in those 2 years. So keep it up, Faith. You're doing great. Parker, I appreciated. I just have appreciated so much the growth I've seen in you, and I have especially appreciated you during these days of remote instruction, because you shared with me early on that this was hard for you, and I know you are one who depends on the interaction you have with the other kids, because sometimes they ask the questions that you don't even know you necessarily have, but they ask the questions and you're like, oh yeah, I guess I didn't really understand that, and you've missed that, and you shared that with me. That was hard for you, and yet you've done well. You've done very well keeping up with your work and doing your work well, and I have appreciated that growth that I have seen in you, that responsibility. I'm not sure the 5th grade Parker would have handled this quite the same way the 6th grade Parker has, and I appreciate that growth that I have seen in you. Carson, I just appreciate who you are as a young man. I appreciate your faith. I appreciate your heart for Jesus and your desire to share him and with others, and the ways that you have shared with me during these days of remote instruction, that you are still trying to reach out and share Jesus with others. And that is what has made an impression on me. I appreciate that. And for Natasha and Hannah, Natasha has just grown leaps and bounds in the 2 years that we've had her, and I appreciate what I've seen in her and how she has persevered through her difficulties. And Hannah Kay, just all around, from the beginning, again, as Glo said, she just is who she is and hasn't changed for anybody.
I'll start.
Go ahead.
Are you sure? I'll start with Parker. I appreciate Parker for keeping me on my toes. He really, throughout this remote instruction mostly, has kept me on my toes where reading is concerned. He was joining Zooms for our book club way before I was even ready. And he would email and message me and say, are you getting on? Are we starting? So he was just really eager each week to meet, and that just made my Thursday. I told him that every Thursday. His eagerness just really impressed me. Carson's sense of humor is what sticks out to me. Carson, I think you're hilarious. And I appreciate your hard work, but I appreciate that you know the boundaries and the fine lines that are there. You know when it's time to be joking, and you know when it's time to get serious and get down to work, and I appreciate that. Faith, I think you've come the furthest for me, girl. I've been really appreciating seeing the real Faith this year. You've been like smiling more, you've been happy more, you've interacted with me so much. I feel like we're just now getting to know real Faith, and now we're going to move you on to 7th grade. So I just really appreciate how much you've grown, girl, and I want you to keep up what you've been doing. You're going to be quite a leader in the future.
And I will wrap up some of the same things that these teachers have already mentioned, but with Natasha, just the quality of work that I've seen when she's turned it in, it's been very good. I've heard a lot more from her in that way than I did last year. And in Faith, I know you started the year wanting to keep your locker organized. I don't know how it is at the time, but I know the few times that we saw it, it was much better, and I appreciated just seeing that change in you. Parker, I loved your sweet messages that you sent throughout this last quarter. You know, just things that you were thinking about that you would send to your teachers, and I appreciate that. Hannah Kay was strong. She's diligent, and I appreciate that characteristic. And then Carson, I think what I've noticed most about you is your focus this year. You are just extremely focused on doing well in school, and you've improved in that area, and I have enjoyed seeing that side of you, and you're going to do great things next year.
Hey, teachers, any last thoughts? Okay. let me just kind of close out our time in 5th and 6th graders, just for me to say thank you. Thank you for the way that you have made our school a better place. Thank you for the way that you influence others around you. You make such a difference in our hallways and in our classrooms, and we are just, like we keep using the word impressed. We're so impressed by you, and we're so thankful for you just embracing the way God has made you and taking those gifts and talents and using them to influence others around you. Thank you guys for joining us today, and we're proud of you, and enjoy your last couple days of outdoor ed, and log in on Chapel on Friday to take a look at all the recordings of the other awards. Thanks guys for joining us, and have a great week. Bye. All right, Mrs. Mack is going to open us up and tell us about our next award that we're presenting today.
Okay, well, this award is kind of special to me because I feel like it's the sportsmanship award of sports. It's called the Barnabas Award, and it basically encompasses good citizenship. But what I wanted to explain to you is who Barnabas was and who he was in the Bible real quick. Barnabas was known as the encourager. And when I see all of your faces, that is one of the first words that comes to my mind is encourager. He was a Christian leader. Again, all of you have that quality. He had integrity. Remember, integrity is doing what's right even when no one else is doing it. And that, to me, is all of you. And so we're going to take just a minute. Barnabas was one that, because of him and his words and his actions, many people came to Christ. And I can see that in your all's future. You're going to lead a lot of people to Christ. It may not be because you're loud and flamboyant like Ms. Mack is, but because you're a quiet leader. And sometimes your actions speak louder than your words. So we're going to talk for just a minute about each one of you. I'm going to start with Tori, 5th grade Tori. There she is. Sorry, I have to find you on my screen. Tori, you have such compassion. And Ms. Mack might cry, honey, because I know you've been through so much. And you have the heart of Christ. You are like Jesus to other people. You stand up for those who cannot stand up for themselves or won't stand up for themselves. You're not going to let anybody knock anybody over. And I so appreciate that about you. Hayden Slamovitz, where are you? You're down there. Hi, buddy. Hayden, the first word that came to mind for you was perseverance, buddy. You're respectful. And one thing I love about you is you take responsibility for everything that you say and do. I know exactly where I stand with you. You've always been honest with me, and I just really appreciate that. Kelsey, there she is. Kelsey is that kind-hearted person. She has a heart for people, and she's got that empathetic side to her. When she sees someone hurting, it hurts her. And when she sees someone happy, she's happy with them. And she does whatever she can to lift other people up. Hayden Patrick is not on here, but Hayden is the one that I put is brave enough to do the right thing and ask for help when he needs it. And he's very bold with that. I'm gonna close my mouth for a minute and let the other teachers say stuff about the 5th grade, and then we'll do 6th grade.
Well, I have to echo everything that Mrs. Mack said. When it comes to being in the classroom and all of you guys working together, all of you stand out as students who go above and beyond to help others. Victoria's always greeting us in the hallway, finding out how our weekend was, just always a special part of Mondays, but not just Mondays, any day. Kelsey's always an extra help in the classroom. She always comes up to see if there's anything that needs to be done or thinks ahead to something that she knows needs to be done and gets it started as we're trying to get started, and I really appreciate that. Hayden, always there to help the people around him. Well, and I said Hayden. I'm looking at Hayden here. We got both Haydens to talk about, but Hayden Slamovitz. I love the way you've stepped up this year in chapel, leading chapel on worship team. It just blessed me to see you up there leading. And Hayden Patrick has been such a help around the classroom, always wanting to help out others And so all of you have that, just that servant's heart, that really wanting to work together and help out all of your classmates. And I really appreciate that.
Tori, I'm gonna echo that too. Not just in the classroom when you came into the classroom, but when you when you would add comments to private messages through Google Classroom, you would say, "Good morning, Mrs. Miller. I hope you're having a great day." And it was just a blessing. That was the way you greeted us every morning when you came in. But it's just a blessing, that attitude and that smile, that spirit about you that just lifts the atmosphere around for the people that are around you. And Kelsey, the same kind of a thing. You're just your spirit, your attitude. It was just a blessing to me, and just the way that you worked through whatever issues you were having, and were willing to come and persevere through things that you didn't understand, and just the friend that I saw you being to your classmates. Hayden, I appreciated your leadership on praise team as well, and just overall your disposition and the way you worked through difficulties as well, and continue to persevere through things that don't necessarily come easy to you, but you just keep a good attitude and work through them. And Hayden Patrick, I just appreciated his love of history. He always, like, we could have just a conversation between him and me through the whole class, because he just wanted to ask questions and carry on conversation, and he was just so excited about all of it. And I just appreciated that love for learning from him.
And again, I'll echo what the teachers have said. I'm sorry, was she finished?
I was, yeah.
Okay. I'll start with Hayden Patrick. He just impressed me from the beginning. He always came in with a smile and just was ready to get started to do math, which is not usually the way a lot of kids come into my classroom, ready to do math. So that was always an encouragement to me. Tori, just like other teachers have said, I appreciate that you were always so polite and just came in and always asked how our day was. And then as you left, you always said, "Well, have a good day, Mrs. Hoyt." And that just made my day every day. Hayden, I remember right from the very beginning when we were at lunch that you needed some lunch buddies to eat with. And you brought that to my attention. You did not shy away from it and just sit over there by yourself. That you asked me to find some people that could sit with you at the table. And that impressed me. And in Kelsey, I have never seen anybody who wants to clean the lunchroom as much as you do. Every day she was like, "Can I help you get the rags out and give them to the tables?" And she was like that in the classroom as well as at lunchtime, but just always had a pleasant attitude. So thank you.
All right, now for our sixth graders. I'm going to talk about all of them in general. Our sixth graders, the four that we picked, I call them, they're my rule followers. And they lead by example. And I appreciate that, because that's sometimes very hard to do, especially when you're around your friends. But you guys show respect to your teachers. You show respect to one another. You show respect to even people who are disrespectful to you. You take responsibility for your words and actions, just like Barnabas. You're encouraging, you're hardworking, and you're honest. Olivia, I'm going to start with you. Olivia Buck, I've watched you grow up, girl. I've known Olivia since she was a baby. I held her when she was tiny. But Olivia, even through this remote instruction, you have been a load of encouragement. I got daily jokes from Olivia, whether they were knock-knock jokes or whatever. And it always seemed to be right at the time when I was about to lose my mind. And then I would get knock-knock. And so I was like every day. And so that just really kept me encouraged. Will, same for you. You and your love of Cyclops from our story have kept me entertained and just encouraged this entire time. I have seen you grow up in the last 2 years, and I feel like you've found who you are. You've come out of your shell, and you're going to be a very strong leader in the future. Tyler. Tyler, we just got off a Zoom conference with Carson, and I'm going to say the same thing that somebody else said. You two told us that you could be together in a classroom and it would be fine. And we were like, I don't know, but you proved us wrong. And you have done a great job keeping yourself under control, showing love to everyone, being on student council. You've done a really good job of sharing the love of Christ with others as well. And Sarah, I appreciate you and how you've become more and more vocal. You are starting to speak up, and I appreciate that. I love seeing you in chapel. You are an incredible chapel leader, and I know you get that straight from mom and dad. So I know that God is going to use you in the future to do some extraordinary things.
A good citizen, when I think of good citizen, again, like Mrs. Mack just said, the four of you just embody what good citizens are. Will and Tyler, you're quiet. You would half the time not even know you're in the classroom, and yet we know you're there because of the example that you're setting, because of who you are, because of your character, because of how you do your work, because of the friend that you are to the people around you, and just because of your the overall good example that you set. And I just have so appreciated the leadership from both of you in each of your homerooms. Sarah, what stands out to me is the way that you came to us when you were struggling with a friendship, and you didn't want us to fix it for you. You wanted our advice. You wanted to fix it yourself, and we gave you some ideas and watched you try and put those things into place. And I appreciate that so much about you, and how you're willing to. You want to continue to be a friend and be the best friend that you can be, and that is a huge part of being the good strong Christian that you are. And that will always stand out to me, because that doesn't always happen. You know, kids want us to fix it for them. They don't want to take the steps to fix it for themselves. And I appreciate that you were willing to do the hard stuff to try and persevere through that. And Olivia, you and Sarah both, during this remote instruction time, I just have come to appreciate so much more. Sarah, I've seen tons of growth in you, but Olivia, for me, you found your voice during this remote instruction, and I just have appreciated learning and more about who you are and how you've opened up to me some in the comments and the ways that you've done your work. But you just have always been dependable, been a good citizen, always done your work and done it well. We could know you were doing what you were supposed to be doing and not ever have to worry that you weren't where you were supposed to be or doing what you were supposed to be doing. And that means a lot to a teacher.
The word that comes to, Go ahead.
Olivia, you've been cracking me up through this whole time, just to some of the comments that you've made to me. That you appreciate my jokes, as bad as they are. You've always comment on, you find them funny or you get them, and I appreciate that. But just like Ms. Miller said, you have found your voice during this time. I've heard more from you this quarter through messaging back and forth in the comments than I think I've heard from you in 2 years, and I've enjoyed it. You've got a great sense of humor. Sarah, I agree with Miss Miller. You've grown up a lot this year, and you are definitely coming into your own and have the confidence, and just have enjoyed seeing you change, not just grow up physically. I think you've put on a good 6 inches since 5th grade, but just in your person, you know who you are and you know how to handle yourself. And Will, I've always been impressed with the work that you do on projects for me. You put your all into it. You do a good job, and I appreciate that. And I can always count on Will to be doing what he should be doing in the classroom, no matter what's going on around him. Sometimes I feel like, there might be explosions going on around, and there's Will just working away, just doing what he needs to do. Tyler, I've seen a lot of change in you too this year. You've grown up a lot. You've taken responsibility for your work, and most of the time you're ready to come in and you get busy and do what you're supposed to do, and yet you still like to have a good time, and I like that about you.
When I think of the 4 of you 6th graders, the word that comes to mind is consistency. Mm-hmm. And you've been consistent this whole year, and even from last year into this year, in being that good citizen, in being an example to your classmates, in choosing to do what you're supposed to be doing. And so I think that's a really good quality to be known by, that you're known by being a good example, and it's a consistent example, and I appreciate that in all of you.
All right, teachers, any other last words before we close out with this group? Okay. just if I could add one thing to just wrap up what the teachers have all shared to each of you 5th and 6th graders is how much I appreciate the example that you set before your classmates. You make our school a better place. You make such a huge influence on our days, but on the days of everybody around you. And so thank you guys for really stepping up and for doing all of these things and making and having an influence in our school. But beyond that, parents, I just want to thank you as well, because the things that we're saying are things that they don't just pick up on in school. We know that you guys are instilling those qualities in them at home, and they are representing you and your family well. You know, out of this group, we have either had older brothers and sisters in intermediate school, or this one is the first, and we've got a couple coming. And you all, whether you are the younger brother or sister or the oldest one, you set a great example for your siblings, and we know that your families are a really important part of instilling those things in you. So moms and dads and 5th and 6th graders, thank you guys so much for doing all those things and representing our Lord and our school very well. And we're just going to go ahead and close out our meeting here. Again, I invite you guys to our chapel to see the other recordings on Friday. And then also next week on Monday is when you'll receive a certificate that you can have that will kind of commemorate this recognition that you received. Thanks again, guys, for joining us, and have a great week. See you later.
Bye, guys.
Bye, guys.
Bye.
Bye.
So this award we call the Holiness Award, and it is the award for those. Sorry, I do this every year. I'll get through it, I promise, but you might have to bear with me a little bit. For those who we deem to be the most Christ-like, as we have watched you through the years, and that's the 2 of you and 2 6th graders. I'm Diego, and just we call you, Mrs. Matt calls you Preacher Man, and just your heart for Jesus, the way that you know the word, and the way that you're willing to share that word and share that encouragement, the depth of faith that we see in you walking day to day is something we don't see very often in kids your age, and that has impressed us very much as we've walked with you through this past year, and thank you for the way that you imitate Christ and the way that you are Christ-like to those around you. And Abby, very similar. You're not as outspoken as Diego, but you don't have to be outspoken for us to see Christ's love shine through you, and for us to see a depth of faith that is there in the way that you treat others, your kindness, your work ethic, okay, and just all around who you are. It's there, it's a part of you, and there's a depth to your faith as well that is you're continuing to grow, but there's a depth there that we don't always see in our 5th graders and 6th graders, and we really appreciate what we see in you, and thank you for the way that you have modeled the love of Christ to those around you. And so I'll let the other teachers say their piece about the 5th graders, and then we'll go to the 6th graders.
Abby, I remember early on in the fall, there was just a little hiccup. You've always been very consistent for me, but you had done something wrong that Mom wanted you to make right, and you wrote me a note, and I remember that very clearly. And I won't go into the details. I won't embarrass you in front of everybody, but I just remember that showed me that you had a very tender heart, and I appreciate that. And Diego, I echo what Miss Miller says. I've seen that strong Christian testimony that you have, and I want you to keep using that for Jesus.
Diego, one of the things that I'll never forget was a particular chapel when we were figuring out whether the truth is true, no matter whether people believe it or not. And everyone was putting their Post-it notes up on the other walls. And what stands out the most to me was when you walked over to the no wall, because you wanted to see what people's reasons were so that you could talk to them about why they believed that. You weren't just curious. You weren't changing your mind. You wanted to see what people believed because you wanted to be able to tell them why they needed to believe the truth. And that just really stood out that day because you care for the hearts of others, and that's awesome. And Abby, you've been such a consistent leader in our class, a quiet leader, but every leader doesn't have to be somebody that's loud. You know, you're always the one that's doing what you should be doing and leading by example, and that is such a Christ-like characteristic. And we so appreciate you for that.
Abby, I just appreciate your sweet spirit. There's never a time I look out at you and you're not smiling and you're working hard. Like Ms. Glow said, you lead by example. You don't have to be loud. I just know there's never a time when I'm going to look out and you're not doing what you're supposed to be doing. You set a good example for your classmates, and you're going to lead a lot of people to Christ based on your actions. And I can't wait to see how he uses you. Pastor Diego? You have probably kept me on my toes more than any student I've ever taught in Bible class. The questions that you pull out sometimes shock me because your level of thinking is incredible for someone your age. I echo Glow, though. When you did that in chapel, you kind of challenged my faith throughout this year too. Like, man, Diego's got it going on, and so I've got to up my Bible game if I got to have him in class. So Miss Miller, brace yourself, because Diego's coming for you. But Diego, the highlight of my year was watching you preach. When I got to come and see you at church, that was absolutely incredible. And you made an impression not only me, but on my husband as well. And he said, that boy's going to change the world. I said, oh, we know. So keep it up. We're super proud of you, buddy.
Thank you. And I'll add a few things about these two as well. Abby, the one thing that I've noticed in school, but also a lot since we've had school online, is how easily people are drawn to you. And I've seen that through your interactions and comments and things that I didn't really get to see firsthand all the time in class. And that's one of the things that I thought really meshed with you being recognized with this Christlikeness Award, was that was true about Jesus. People were drawn to Jesus. They wanted to be around him. And I see that about your peers. They see something in you that they want to be around. And I've been so impressed with you by that. Diego, the chapel that has already been mentioned stood out to me for sure, because I remember standing there watching that happening, and you were going to the other side, and the teachers and I were all looking at each other thinking, wait, Diego was one of the ones on the yes side at the beginning. Why is he going over to the no side? What is he doing? That definitely made an impact on all of us. But even a couple weeks before that, and the teachers and I have actually had an opportunity to share this example with some other teachers in our school. And that was when 4 of you had to take instructions and walk around the room and try to find a prize. And you were the one that just randomly got the prize. And your immediate thought was, this isn't just for me. This is something that I can't just keep to myself. It's something that I have to use to gift to other people. And again, that's exactly something that I was reminded of when we thought about this award for you. That's what Jesus did. He said, you know what? I'm giving to others. I'm giving my life for others. And that is one example of something that you've done that we all just got to sit back and watch and be a part of, because we know that your faith is so deep and that you have followed that example that Christ has set for us. And we're so thankful.
Thank you.
And for our 6th graders, our young man is Jason. And I know for Jason, he was new this year. And to be quite honest, the biggest impression for me, one day we were sitting in a staff meeting, and Mrs. Mack said, Jason hates school. And I just looked at her and my mouth probably hung open because I could not believe that was coming out of her mouth, because never in a million years would I have ever guessed that he didn't like school. He came in, he adjusted, he did his work, he had a good attitude, all of those things that are just godly characteristics, especially when you're doing something that you just do not like to do. And it isn't, he didn't, I don't know if it's he didn't feel he was good at it, or he just doesn't, I don't know what it is, but you never, and I just never in a million years would have ever guessed that he didn't like school, because his attitude was just like Jesus. It was a Jesus attitude about the way that he approached it. And for Leah, I think what stands out for me the most with her was watching the journey that her family took this year. Her dad lost his job over the summer, and they walked a whole year with her, with him looking and trying, and she just would come in and share the faith journey that they were on, and here's what God is doing, and here's how God is providing, and here's how my faith is growing. And I just appreciated watching her walk through that, and watching her parents lead her through that, and how even my faith was stretched as I was journeying that with her. And then to rejoice with her when her dad did get a job, even though it meant taking them away from us. And but just watching, I know her faith grew, but just watching how she approached that, and the attitude that she had as they were walking that journey this year.
I'll add on to what Miss Miller said about Jason. It was the fact that he didn't want to do the schoolwork. He liked the social piece of it. He liked the teachers. He liked recess and all that. He just didn't want to do the work. But she's right. He never led on to that. And for me, with Jason, it's his compassion for people, and compassion, like he just loves on people, loves on teachers, and he definitely has that Christ-like example. Oh,
Jason is actually joining us now.
Jason, are you there, buddy?
Yeah, I'm in my sister's bedroom again.
Okay.
Sure. Jason, I was just telling him we're giving you the Christ-like Award for 6th grade boys. And the reason we are is because of your compassion for other people. Okay, Miss Miller had quite a story to share, and she was talking about, remember when you told me you hated school?
Yeah.
Yeah, it wasn't school that you hated, it was the school work that you hated. And she said you've always been one that can just work through anything that you don't like to do, you still put a smile on and you work hard. So we appreciate that about you, buddy.
Yeah.
Can I add something about Jason here? This is a small little story, but it's just funny. Jason took me weeks to figure out, but every day in my class on Thursday, and that's what I hadn't figured out, he'd say, Mrs. Glover, can you borrow a Sharpie? I'll bring it back after. And after that, oh, sure, go ahead. And I would say 98% of the time, you'd never see the Sharpie again. But not Jason. Every single week, when I would get back to my classroom later, it was sitting on my desk. And that's because he needed that Sharpie for Think Outside the Box Thursdays. His Max room. And it took me weeks to figure out that that's what it was for. But that's just a little way of, he wasn't going to borrow that Sharpie and not put it back on my desk. And every single time he put it back. And that's just a rare thing in the classroom. I'm used to Sharpies and pencils disappearing, but just that ethic that he wasn't going to borrow something and not give it back. So, and Leah, I just have to add for Leah that I too have journeyed with her this year through her dad's new job, because we've been in the same place as a family. And so I was able to share that with her a lot. And I really enjoyed, that she's been such a leader for the past 2 years. We will miss her so much, but I am so happy for her. And the new adventure her family is just starting, but we will miss her. But she has a special place in my heart, and I'd love to keep up with her and know how she will use the gifts God has given her for His glory.
Jason, I remember in science class the number of deep questions that you would ask, especially as we were talking about creation and evolution, and just the things that you would want to know deeper answers for than some of the other kids wanted to know in class, and I appreciated that about you. And I echo exactly what your teachers have said. You always desire to do what's right, and I appreciate that. With Leah, I'll give her a shout out. If you haven't been on the virtual talent show yet, go on and see a song that she's written. She wrote a song for us last year, and I think God has gifted her and the ability to be able to put down into song what's in her heart, and it reflects His glory. So I appreciate that.
Add a similar point about Leah as well is, just through this journey of her family following what the Lord had for them to do, it wasn't easy. Transitions like that are hard. You have to leave friends, you have to leave, family, you have to leave a school that you love. And Leah's attitude was never about the negative. It was always about the positive and about just following the call that God had on her dad's life and on their family, to go on and to serve Him somewhere else. And that was just so great to watch her walk through that this year with her family, and know that the Lord's going to continue to use her talents and giftedness. And Jason, one thing I would echo a lot of things that your teacher said. Doing the right thing is one thing that stands out for me about you, and why this is a perfect award for you to have. But personally, before my mom's surgery, I had come around to each of the classes and kind of let them know, hey, I'm going to be on for a little while. And if you happened not to know, I'm actually still in North Carolina. I haven't made it back to Ohio yet. I'm coming soon. But it was a very stressful time trying to get ready to come down here and help her and have other things put in place. And when I had stopped into Miss Miller's class and talked to the class, they had an opportunity to pray for me, and Jason was the one that prayed. And Jason, I so much appreciated that. And not only did you pray for my mom and that God would be in the surgery and help to heal her, but you said some things that really were important that I needed to hear. And you were just such an encouragement to me through that, because it was very stressful. And so that was just a great way that the Lord used you to minister to me this year, and I'm so grateful. Teachers, anything else to add to this group? Well, one thing I would close and say is, parents, thank you. The things that we recognize in your kids, we just see them this little glimpse of time, whether it's just from one school year or 3/4 of a school year, or after 2 whole years. We just get to see a little snippet of their lives. But they represent you and your family, and they represent the Lord so well. And we're just glad to give them this honor, but also to say, parents, thank you. Thank you for entrusting them to us and letting them be a part of making our school a great place to be. And we're just so grateful for their influence on us, but on also the other students that they come in contact with. We're so proud of you guys. We love you. We miss you. And on Monday, when we see you, we'll have a certificate to give you to recognize this honor for you. Thank you guys for joining us, and we'll see you next week.
Thank you. Thank you. Have a wonderful night.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, well, this is the Leadership Award, otherwise known as our Peter Award. And Peter was definitely a leader. He didn't always lead in the right direction, but he sure learned a lot along the way as Jesus continued to correct his behavior and train him in the way he should go. And so it's not a perfection award. It's not an award that you get because you do everything perfectly, but we do see a lot of leadership qualities in each of you. And so we felt that you were well deserving of this award. And so I'm going to actually go through all 4 of you, and then I'll let your other teachers talk a little bit. So Noah, one thing I've noticed about you, you're always quiet in my class, almost always quiet. But you are always, not for Mrs. Mack, but maybe in my class you are. Take it. You are consistent in my class. You always come in, you're ready to work, you're ready to learn, and you show that respect. And I think others see that. I've seen that, and I really appreciate that about you. Grace, same with you. You're just diligent. You come into my classroom and you are focused and ready to work. And even on remote learning, there's been a few times maybe something didn't come through on your screen and you didn't know you needed to do it, and you're like hopping on at 10 p.m. Okay, I'm doing it right now. And I'm like, don't have to do it right now, but you would get it right done. And I appreciate that about you, and that you would always seek to do what has been asked of you to do. Logan, I know I already talked to you once today, but again, just that leadership quality. The thing I remember probably most about you was probably the third week of school, and I had started going through the alphabet on having people lead the devotions and the pledge to the flag. And I happened to be on somebody that was new to the school. They weren't quite comfortable yet, and you're like, I'll do it. Not even though you were new to the school, that didn't seem to bother you at all. And I just appreciate that you took charge and you were willing to lead the class. And Lucy, you've been a strong leader for me for 2 years. I've seen that in the classroom. You have just done a fantastic job, always seeking to do your very best. And I know that you will be doing some great things in middle school. And I'm looking forward to hearing those things. So I will let the other teachers chime in on what they think about all of you.
I'll start with Lucy. Lucy, what stands out to me, I think, for over the 2 years, I mean, it's consistency, but honestly, coming from this time of remote instruction, I sent your parents an email probably about maybe halfway through this time about how thankful I was for the quality of work that I was getting from you. And the email that I got back from Mom and Dad said, she's doing it all on her own. She's managing, we hardly have to talk to her at all. We're on her sister, because her sister's younger, needs a little more, but we hardly have to do anything for her. She's managing it herself. And that's a huge quality of a good leader, is being able to do that consistently and do it well, whether anyone's keeping you on task or not. You keeping yourself on task, and that's that we have seen that in the classroom as well. But I just noticed that, especially in remote learning, and I appreciated that. And Logan, kind of the same thing. Just your consistency all year long in the work that you were doing, but especially in remote learning, you just kept up that consistent quality of work, and that shows strong leadership, because you weren't doing it to be noticed. You weren't doing it because somebody else was watching. You were doing it because it was the right thing to do, and that's what we need to see in a good, strong leader. Grace and Noah, again, all year long, the consistent quality of your work, and not just the quality of your work, but just as you were just leading by example, not always by word, but by example, in turning your work in on time and in doing your best and persevering when you didn't get something quite the way you wanted it. You would come and say, can you please help me understand this? And I appreciate that. Those are good, strong leadership qualities as well. I appreciate those things about each of you.
Go ahead, Glow.
Okay. All right. I'm going to start. I think all of you have different ways that you show your leadership, and leadership is one of those interesting characteristics that we have quiet leaders, we have more vocal leaders. But one of the things that it boils down to is that others follow what you're doing. And whether it's quietly or whether it's a louder, more vocal person, you guys are setting the right example for your classmates. You're the ones that are doing what we're supposed to be doing. You know, if we stepped out of the room and back in, we know you would be doing what you were supposed to be doing. And so that is such a great example for others, and we are so appreciative of that. So all of you have made that just doing what is right, whether the teacher is looking or, that is a great quality to have, and we affirm that in you.
Okay, I'll start with Grace and Noah together. You know, my homeroom is full of a lot of personality and a lot of spunk. And so I knew somehow there was going to be leaders that rise to the top, and the two of you really did that. Regardless of how crazy our classroom was, you two always set that constant example and showed perseverance even when things got tough, and you just pushed through all the time. And I really appreciate that about you. And I can't wait to see next year how God continues to develop those leadership skills. Logan, as a reader, you are my leader. You came in new to the school and you took over my reading class and loved to volunteer to read and were engaged in everything, and the excitement you have for love and love of learning really rubbed off on other kids. Lucy, I picked leader for you because you are a leader to your friends. Even when your friends maybe not want to do the same things or do the right things, you set that example, you have integrity, and regardless of what everyone else is doing, you do what's right. And in the long run, people are just going to follow you. You're going to do great things in the future.
You know, guys, if I could add one thing to what your teachers said, would be something collectively. You know, the word leadership is really important in our school, so much so that it's a part of our mission statement. It's a part of who our school strives to be in developing leaders. And so we don't take an award with the name leadership lightly. And you guys have all, throughout the examples that your teachers have shared, have really stepped up and shown what a quality leader looks like. The one verse that I always think of when I think of who is a good example of a leader is in 1 Corinthians. Where Paul writes, follow me, like Ms. Glow talked about. Leaders have people that follow them. And that's what Paul said. He said, follow me as I follow the example of Christ. And I see that in all four of you. It's not just that people follow you, but it's because of who you are following that makes you a good leader in our school, because you all have a strong Christian testimony and you all set a good example. And that is exactly what we need to continue to make our school a better place, is to set that example and have other people follow your lead. So we are so thankful that you guys do that, and so appreciative of the way that you have set that example in our intermediate school this year. Yeah, we'll give a round of applause for you guys too. Thanks, Dad. We do have a certificate to give you guys next week when you come to school to clean out your lockers and pick up your materials. And so we'll have that ready for you. And then also this recording will be a part of our chapel at the end of the week. So log in and take a look at that and see what other recognitions were given. But thank you guys so much for joining us tonight. Also, parents, thank you for what you do to instill these great qualities in these great kiddos. We're so blessed to have you guys. Thanks so much for joining us. Have a good night, everybody.
Yeah.
Bye.
Bye.
All right, we are here at the point in our awards ICHAP where we have given several different awards already at this point in our honors ICHAP. We've given an improvement or an impression award. We've given an all-star award for some students who did an outstanding job in remote instruction. We've given a Good Citizen Award. We've given an award for students showing Christlikeness, and we've given a leadership. And all of those awards kind of culminate in one that we save kind of for the end of our ICHAP, end of our awards presentations. And every year when we go through our list of awards and we think about students who have just shown special qualities throughout not just 6th grade, but sometimes 5th and 6th grade, if we've had them for both years. We always look for students who kind of exemplify all of those things, kind of rolled into one. And you guys are familiar with a plaque that is in our hallway that has the names of students in past years in school who've been given the Eagle Award. And for us in intermediate school, the Eagle Award is the highest recognition that we have, that we give and honor students who really, again, exemplify those characteristics. You know, that as we started the year in chapel, in our chapel studies, and we talked about some expectations that we had of students, and talked about Eagles, and we started our SOAR list, we started our shout out. Just remind you guys of what those qualities were as we thought about what makes an Eagle soar in intermediate school and at Grove City Christian. We talked about how Grove City Christian Eagles, the S stood for being spirit-led. You know, a student who has a strong testimony and has a strong faith in Christ to live out in their classes. We talked about the O in SOAR, meaning that it's a student who puts other people first. And the A was a student who shows appreciation, who says thank you and recognizes the blessings that God has given them in their lives. And then the R stood for a student who showed respect, respect for the school, respect for property, respect for classmates, respect for their teachers, for their families, respect for the Lord. All of those things were qualities that we talked about that were important of demonstrating how a Grove City Christian Eagle or a student should behave. And this year, and like in other years, when we get to this point, when we decide, okay, who is a student that really stands out? You know, as you look at the names of the students on that plaque that Max showed a minute ago, you'll see that most of the time, the Eagle Award is one that we give to one student. But one other year, we had a time where it was just clear that there were two students that needed to be recognized and needed to be awarded that year. And this was the second time that we decided, you know what, we have two students. We have Titan and we have Nikia, who really stand out in all of those qualities. They are strong in their Christian testimony. They show that appreciation and respect for others. And all that being said, we just want to congratulate both of you because you two are our Eagle Award recipients for this year for intermediate. We are so very proud of you. Round of applause. Mrs. Mack has another plaque that she's going to show. You can take a closer picture and a closer look at it next week when you stop in at school, and you'll see that your names are already on that plaque, and it's ready to hang up in the hallway to recognize all of the influence and the difference that you guys have made in intermediate school. If I could say one thing about each of you, and then I'll let your teachers kind of pipe in and tell you why we chose the two of you to receive our Eagle Award this year. Nick, one thing that really stands out to me with you is how inviting you are and how infectious your personality is around others. You know, you are a young lady who spreads joy wherever you go, and other people are attracted to that, and other people are drawn to you because of the way that you show your love for Christ by the way you show your love for other people. Titan, one thing that has always impressed me about you, I have a friend who has been married to her husband for 25 years. The first time I met him, he was very interested in learning about me. He wasn't there to tell me things about himself. He was there to ask me questions and to learn more about me. And I remember telling her more than 25 years ago, you know what, I think he's a great guy because he cares about other people more than he cares about himself. And Titan, you remind me a lot of him. His name is Jason. And I say that because so many times when I have a chance to talk with you, you just don't tell me about your day or about something that you did or something that was frustrating to you. You turn that conversation around and I can see your teachers shaking their heads. You make us the point of conversation. You turn those things around and you ask us how we're doing, and you give us encouragement in so many ways. And so in so many ways, you really exemplify that putting other people first. And I really admire you for that. And I'm so thankful. Teachers, let me turn it over to you. They have some things to say about the two of you as well.
I'll start with Nakia. Nakia, from the time that you came in my classroom in 5th grade, remember I met you before school even started so that we could make sure that transition was okay. Girl, you have blossomed so much in 2 years, to the point where now you're on student council, you're taking leadership roles, you are exemplifying everything that our school motto and our school mission statement is all about. And I could not be more proud of you, girl. I texted your mom the other day, if I could keep you, instead of sending you to 7th grade, I totally would if I could. And Titan, I knew from the moment that we met in 5th grade that you were going to follow in Big Brother's footsteps. The Timlin household is very well known. They're raising some awesome boys. And you guys are godly young men. And Miss Edwards hit it right on the head. You care about so many other people that you put yourself last. And that is a quality of Jesus, buddy. And I'm really proud of you.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
When Mrs. Edwards was talking, what jumped out to me when she was reviewing the story was spirit-led. And that's what I think of. Sorry. When I think of both of you, I can't count the number of times that either one of you have said to me, Miss Miller, how can I pray for you? And then followed up with, Miss Miller, you shared with me about whatever, my brother Nick or my grandma or whatever. How is that? How is that person? How can do I need to keep praying for you? And just, you don't understand how much that means to me when you invest that part of yourself in us. It means the world to us to see you caring about us, not just us. And I know you didn't just do it with us, you did it with your classmates too. And Titan, before 5th grade started, your mom had emailed me and said, school's not Titan's favorite place to be, but I'm hoping that kind of turns around in his experience in intermediate. But we would never have known that it was a struggle with your attitude and the way you embraced and hopefully that has turned around. But we just have appreciated so much your attitude and just your character and the way you've embraced your struggles with everything you've gone through with your hearing and how you continue to rise above that. Nakia, one thing that has also stood out to me, and this comes from remote learning, I've shared that a lot tonight, several things have come out, but you, and I know this is as much your parents' decision as it is yours, but you live where you live because you know Christ needs to be there. And that speaks volumes about who you are, because it isn't. I know when you told me where you live, I pictured it, and I know what kind of neighborhood it is. And you're right, Christ does need to be there. And the fact that you are willing to be there where it's maybe not the safest, but willing to be that life is a huge part of why you are so fit for this award.
Titan, I've been blessed to have you in my homeroom this year. It's been a joy to have you there. You come in every day. You ask me how my day or my weekend went, and I can tell that you genuinely care about knowing the answer, and it's not just, hey, how are you? And then you walk away. I've enjoyed seeing that. Looks like you've grown probably a few inches since school's been out, or been home, I should say, not out. But are you taller than Trenton now? Are you taller than your brother?
No,
Trenton. But you haven't just grown physically, you've grown spiritually, and we've enjoyed watching you in that process. And just keep drawing towards God in all that you do. Nakia, you've been great. I've just seen you change so much since 5th grade into 6th grade. I know you're still very hard on yourself, but you strive to always do your best, and I appreciate that. And I appreciate the number of times that you could take a picture of something and send it to me through Google Classroom so I could see what was going on your end. That was really helpful to me. So thank you for taking that leadership role on that end.
I think Mrs. Hoyt's last statement hits both of you on the head, and that is striving not only to do your best, but to do what is right. I see both of you as students who always want to do the right thing, always want to do their best, and always come up and ask us questions if you're not sure. Am I doing this right? Is this the right way? Is this what I should be doing? And that is such a good example for your fellow classmates. I feel like we've seen both of you grow so much from the beginning of 5th grade to the end of 6th grade. Nakia came in so quiet, and then the change this year in leading as student council was just incredible. It's hard to believe that was the same person at the beginning of last year. And Tyden, you've come in probably with us, you know we loved your brother, and so maybe you thought, uh-oh, I gotta be like Trenton, but you've really come into your own, and you have been a fantastic leader in intermediate school in your own way, and that is just fantastic. We're so proud of both of you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You guys are so welcome. And Mr. and Mrs. Kaufman and Mr. and Mrs. Timlin, I would just thank you guys too. Thanks for entrusting us with your kids. Thank you for what you do at home to make them who they are. Instill these values and these qualities and characteristics in them. That does not go unnoticed. And we're so grateful for you and your partnership, and for both of you. We have just been so blessed to have you for 2 years. And like Mrs. Mack said, if we could throw a lasso around you and keep you back, we would. But we know that you guys are going to go on to middle school and continue to be just a great influence and do great things. And we're going to be there to watch it on the sidelines and cheer you guys on. And we're just so thankful for the time that you've been a part of intermediate school. And thank you so much for making our school a better place. We're so proud of you.
Thank you guys so much. We miss you all terribly.
All right, guys, I'm going to let you go. Make sure you join in on Friday and see the other recordings as well, and cheer on some of your classmates who had recognitions too. But stop by the hallway on Monday when you're in the building and get a picture of your names on the wall. All right, we love you guys and are proud of you. Have a good night.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, tonight we have this gathering of a handful of 6th graders and their families. Normally, at the end of our intermediate honors chapel every year, we have a special time where we have our 6th graders and any who have come to join us for ICHAP that day come up on the stage so the parents can kind of put an arm around their shoulder and we can join in and just put a hand on a back and just have a time to pray for them. 6th graders, we kind of like you guys, and we're going to miss you. Being with you guys for 2 years, we have our school set up where we get to have you 5th grade and 6th grade. We get attached to you, and we love and care for you guys so much. And this is always an emotional time for us at the end of a school year, but especially in those big transitions when we have students that are moving out of one part of our school to another. And so for you guys, that's out of intermediate and into middle school. And that is such a big step. And we are so proud of you guys, how well you've done these 2 years with us in intermediate school. And especially these last 10 weeks, not being able to be together have been tough, but you guys have really risen to the challenge and you've done such a great job. And we're so proud of you. And we just wish you all the best in middle school. You are well prepared. And I know it's a big step. I know parents are oftentimes a little nervous about that step from intermediate to middle school, but you guys are going to do great. And we're still here to support you. We'll be at basketball games and on soccer fields as soon as we're able to do that, to be there and cheer you on and support you guys. And you know where we all live in the building. And so as soon as we can all get back and be there, we're looking forward to seeing you and still keeping in touch and hearing how you're doing. But typically, Miss Miller is our designated 6th grade send-off prayer person. And so I've asked her to do that again for us. And she's just going to lead our time of prayer, and we'll say a couple of farewells and let you guys get on with your evening, okay? All right, Miss Miller, take it for us.
Let's pray. Heavenly Father, what a joy and a privilege it has been to partner with these parents in the education of these kids for the last year for most of them, many of them, last 2 years for many of them, last year for some of them. We've walked with them through things none of us have ever experienced before in these last 10 weeks. And thank you for the way that they have persevered through that. We've laughed with them, we've cried with them, we've watched them grow, we've seen them do things that some of them never thought they'd be able to do, doubted themselves, and yet they persevered through those difficult things. And you are doing amazing things in them, and we're excited for this opportunity for them to move on. Thank you for the way that you are working in them. And as we now go into summer, Lord, things may look a little different this summer than they have in past summers, and yet you're there, and their summer can be amazing anyway because of who you are. And I just pray that you would walk with them through each moment of every day. And as they look towards starting 7th grade, and just pray for your watch care over them, and pray that the word that you have planted in their hearts and the worldview that comes from you, from a solid foundation in your word and who you are, will just continue to take root and grow in them as they continue to grow up in you. Thank you for the privilege of teaching them, and just pray that you would continue to guide and direct their steps all the days of their lives. In your name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Amen. Thank you guys again so much for joining us, and have a great last day of school and a fantastic summer. See you guys.
We will miss
Love you guys.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you. We'll miss you.
Hi.
Don't be strangers.
Come and visit.
Yes. Thank you, intermediate students and families, for joining us for our Honors ICHAP today. We're so grateful for your partnership and look forward to being back together with your students very soon. Our students know that as we finish our chapels every week, we always close with a song. And so for our Honors ICHAP, as we wrap up the 1920 school year, I thought that would be very appropriate today as well. So I'll share with you a song that has become very popular in recent weeks. It was one that was actually released right at the beginning of this time of quarantine. It's entitled "The Blessing" by Carrie Job and Cody Carnes. And I'm going to share with you a version of that song that features children from around the world singing words that come straight from Scripture that I'll close our time with today. And the blessing is from the book of Numbers. It says, "The Lord bless you and keep you. The Lord make his face to shine upon you and be gracious to you. May the Lord turn his face towards you and give you peace." Families and students, that's our prayer for you. We look forward to seeing you all very soon. Have a blessed summer.